Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the UES Vengeance. The ship was big and strong, built for exploring the far edges of space where no human had gone before. Jake had been captain for 3 years now, and he loved his job. Space was quiet today, just like most days when they were patrolling the outer systems. The bridge was calm and peaceful. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of computers doing their work. His crew was good at their jobs. They had been together for 2 years, and they trusted each other completely. Lisa Grant was working at her station, watching for any signals from space. She was the best communications officer in the fleet, and she could find signals that other people missed. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls, checking different frequencies and listening for anything unusual. Commander Alex Kane sat next to Jake. Alex was his second in command and his best friend. They had served together for many years, even before Jake became captain. Alex was smart and brave, and Jake trusted him with his life. Dr. Elena Woods was studying some data on her screen. She was the ship's expert on alien life, even though they had never found any aliens before. She spent her time learning about different planets and thinking about what kind of life might exist out there in the galaxy. The ship moved slowly through space, its sensors always watching and listening. They were far from Earth now, farther than any human ship had ever gone before. The mission was simple: explore new systems, look for signs of life, and report back to Earth Command. Suddenly, Lisa looked up from her station. Her face was excited and worried at the same time. She pressed some buttons and listened carefully to something coming through her headphones. "Captain," Lisa said, "I'm getting something strange here." Jake turned to look at her. "What kind of something, Lisa?" "It's a signal, sir. But it's not like anything I've ever heard before. It's coming from multiple frequencies at the same time, and it's very strong." Alex leaned forward in his chair. "Could it be interference from a star or some kind of natural phenomenon?" Lisa shook her head. "No, sir. This is definitely artificial. Someone or something is sending this signal on purpose, and, Captain, it's not human." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Lisa. This was the moment they had all dreamed about and feared at the same time. First contact with an alien species. "Are you sure it's not human?" Jake asked. "Completely sure, sir. The signal patterns are nothing like our technology. The frequency combinations are different, and the way it's structured is unlike anything in our databases." Dr. Woods stood up quickly and moved to Lisa's station. "Can you play it for us?" Lisa pressed a button, and strange sounds filled the bridge. It was like music, but not quite. There were high sounds and low sounds, patterns that repeated but changed, slightly each time. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. "How long has this been transmitting?" Jake asked. "I just picked it up, but the signal strength suggests it's been broadcasting for several hours at least, maybe longer." Dr. Woods was studying the patterns on her tablet. "Captain, I'm running this through our Universal Translator program. It's going to take some time, but I might be able to figure out what they're trying to say." Jake stood up and walked to the main viewing screen. Out there in the darkness of space was another intelligent species trying to communicate with someone. The responsibility of this moment weighed heavily on his shoulders. "Alex, what's our status?" Jake asked. "All systems normal, sir. We're in good shape if we need to move quickly. Lisa, can you determine where the signal is coming from?" "Working on it now, sir." Her fingers moved rapidly over her controls. "I'm getting a bearing. The signal is coming from a system about 4 light years from here. There appear to be several inhabited planets in that system." Dr. Woods looked up from her tablet. "Captain, I'm getting some preliminary results from the translator. The signal appears to be some kind of distress call." "Distress call?" "Yes, sir. The computer is picking up words that translate to things like help, emergency, and danger. There's also something about a fleet or group of ships." Jake felt his heart rate increase. An alien species was calling for help, and humanity might be the only ones close enough to answer. "Can you get more details?" Jake asked. Dr. Woods worked for several more minutes, occasionally looking up with a worried expression. "Captain, I'm getting more translation now. They're talking about something called the Harvester Fleet. From what I can understand, this Harvester Fleet is attacking them." "Attacking how?" "The signal mentions worlds being destroyed, populations being taken. Captain, I think these aliens are being invaded by someone else." Lisa suddenly looked up. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger. I think they're repeating their message and increasing power." "What else can you tell us about the signal's origin?" Jake asked. "The system has 5 planets, 3 of which show signs of advanced civilization, large cities, space stations, the works. But, Captain, I'm also detecting something else." "What?" "There are a lot of ships in that system, hundreds of them. And they're not all the same type. Some look like civilian vessels, but others are definitely military." Alex stood up. "It sounds like there's a war going on over there." Dr. Woods continued working with the translator. "Captain, I'm getting more information. The beings sending this signal call themselves the Zephyrian Coalition. They're asking for help from any advanced civilization that might be listening. They say their worlds are being harvested by an enemy that shows no mercy." Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. This was the biggest decision of his life. Maybe the biggest decision in human history. An alien species was asking for help, and humanity had the power to answer that call. "Lisa, how long would it take us to reach their system?" "At maximum speed. About 3 days, sir." "And what's our combat readiness?" Alex checked his displays. "All weapon systems are fully operational. We have a full complement of Marines and enough supplies for extended operations." Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people, brave people who had volunteered to explore the unknown. Now the unknown was asking for their help. "Dr. Woods, is there anything else you can tell me about this situation?" "Captain, based on what I'm translating, these Zephyrians are peaceful people. They've never encountered anything like this harvester fleet before. They're completely outmatched and desperate." Jake made his decision. It was the only decision he could make as a human being and as a representative of Earth. "Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made contact with an alien species requesting assistance. Tell them we're responding to their distress call." "Yes, sir." "Alex, set course for the Zephyrian system. Maximum speed." "Course laid in, sir." "All hands, this is the captain." Jake pressed the ship-wide communication button. "We have received a distress call from an alien civilization under attack. We are responding to render assistance. This is what we trained for, people. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is made of." As the UES Vengeance turned toward the distant star system, Jake Morrison knew that everything was about to change forever. 3 days passed quickly aboard the UES Vengeance as the ship traveled through hyperspace toward the Zephyrian system. Captain Jake Morrison spent most of his time on the bridge, watching the stars streak past the viewing screen. His crew worked, around the clock preparing for whatever they might find when they arrived. Dr. Elena Woods had been busy translating more of the alien messages. She discovered that the Zephyrians were not alone in their system. 2 other alien species lived with them in peace. The 3 species had formed something called the Coalition, and they had worked together for hundreds of years. Lisa Grant continued monitoring the distress signals, which were getting stronger as they got closer. The messages were becoming more desperate with each transmission. The aliens were running out of time, and everyone on the ship could feel the pressure. Commander Alex Kane had been working with the ship's tactical officer to prepare for possible combat. They studied the limited information they had about the Harvester fleet and tried to develop strategies, but it was hard to plan when they knew so little about their enemy. The ship's Marines were also preparing. Colonel Linda Hayes had joined the crew just before this mission, bringing with her years of combat experience. She drilled her soldiers constantly, making sure they were ready for anything they might face. When the UES Vengeance finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, everyone on the bridge gasped at what they saw. The destruction was beyond anything they had imagined. Jake stared at the main screen in horror. Where there should have been beautiful planets with cities and space stations, there was only debris. Massive chunks of metal floated through space like the bones of dead giants. The remains of what had once been homes to billions of living beings now drifted silently in the darkness. "My God," whispered Danny Cooper from his navigation station. His voice was barely audible, but everyone heard him. Lisa was scanning different frequencies, trying to find any signs of life. "Captain, I'm detecting survivors. There's a group of ships hiding in the asteroid field about 40,000 kilometers away." "How many ships?" Jake asked. "Looks like maybe 30 or 40 vessels. They're small, probably civilian craft. I think they're trying to hide from something." Dr. Woods was studying the sensor readings from the destroyed planets. "Captain, the level of destruction here is incredible. It looks like someone stripped these worlds completely bare. There's nothing left but empty rock." Jake felt anger building inside him. Someone had done this to innocent people, and they had done it without mercy. "Lisa, open a communication channel to those survivor ships." "Channel open, sir." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at 3 different types of alien beings. Jake had seen pictures of aliens in movies and books, but seeing real ones was completely different. These were living, breathing, intelligent creatures, and they were clearly terrified. The first alien was tall and graceful, with blue-colored skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its eyes were large and expressive, and Jake could see pain and sadness in them. This was a Zephyrian. The second alien looked somewhat like a dolphin that could walk upright. Its skin was smooth and gray, and its eyes held an intelligence that reminded Jake of Earth's whales. This was one of the Corvani that Dr. Woods had learned about. The third alien was small and insect-like, with multiple arms and eyes that could move independently. Despite its strange appearance, Jake could tell it was just as frightened as the others. This was a Malari. The Zephyrian spoke first, and the ship's translator converted its words into English. "Unknown vessel, we thank you for answering our call. I am Council Leader Vex of the Zephyrian Coalition. We are all that remains of our people." Jake stood up from his captain's chair. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Vengeance. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. What happened here?" Vex's large eyes seemed to fill with tears. "The harvesters came 6 days ago. They are unlike anything we have ever encountered. They consume everything organic matter, technology, even the metals from our planets. They leave nothing behind but empty shells." "How many people lived here?" Jake asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. 3 worlds held 60 billion. "Souls," the Corvani named Seer Nala replied, her voice somehow appearing directly in their minds through telepathy. "Now we are perhaps 10,000 survivors hiding in these few ships." The numbers were staggering. 60 billion people murdered in just 6 days. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. Commander Kane stepped forward. "Where are these harvesters now?" "They move in patterns," explained the small Malari, whose name was Engineer Zix. "They strip a system completely clean, then move to the next target. Our intelligence network suggests they are headed for the Centauri Collective next." Dr. Woods was studying the data from her sensors. "Captain, the destruction patterns here are unlike anything in our military databases. These harvesters are incredibly efficient and completely ruthless." Jake looked at the 3 alien leaders on the screen. They had lost everything, their families, their homes, their entire civilization. But they were still trying to warn others about the danger heading their way. "How many ships do the harvesters have?" Jake asked. "Our scouts reported over 300 vessels before they were destroyed," Vex answered. "Each ship is enormous, the size of your largest cities." They are commanded by something that shows no mercy and accepts no surrender. The bridge crew exchanged glances. 300 ships, each one massive and powerful. The UES Vengeance was just one ship with a crew of 800 people. The odds seemed impossible. But Jake Morrison had not become a captain by backing down from impossible odds. Something was stirring inside him, something that connected him to every human who had ever faced a dangerous predator and decided to fight back. "Council Leader Vex," Jake said, and his voice carried a tone that made the aliens on the screen unconsciously step back from their communication devices. "These harvesters made a serious mistake." "What mistake, Captain Morrison?" Jake's expression was calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. "They decided to attack the neighbors of a species that evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us every single day. They picked the wrong fight." Alex Kane understood what his captain was thinking. "Sir, should I send a message to Earth Command?" "Yes, Alex. Priority Alpha transmission. Tell them we need the entire First Battle Fleet out here immediately." Lisa looked up from her station. "Sir, that's over 200 warships. Are you sure?" Jake turned back to the aliens on the screen. "Council Leader Vex, I want you to send a message to every surviving ship in this sector. Tell them that humanity has arrived, and we're going to hunt down every single harvester ship until none of them remain." Vex's eyes widened. "Captain Morrison, we cannot ask you to risk your lives for strangers. Your species has already shown incredible courage just by coming here." "You're not strangers anymore," Jake replied. "You're under human protection now, and humanity has a very simple rule about things that prey on innocent people." "What rule is that, Captain?" Jake's smile was cold and predatory. "We hunt them down, and we destroy them completely, every last one of them." Dr. Woods was monitoring communications from across the sector. "Captain, word is already spreading. I'm detecting messages from the Centauri Collective and other species. They're asking if the reports about humans are true." "What reports?" Jake asked. "That a species from something called a death world has come to help them fight the harvesters." Jake looked out at the debris field that had once been home to 60 billion people. The harvesters thought they were apex predators, consuming entire civilizations without consequence. They were about to learn what real apex predators looked like. "Lisa, record a message for broadcast on all frequencies," Jake ordered. "Recording, sir." "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human species. The harvesters have made their last mistake. We are coming for them, and we will show them the same mercy they showed to 60 billion innocent people. None." As the message was transmitted across the galaxy, Jake Morrison prepared to show the universe why Earth was classified as a death world. 2 weeks had passed since Captain Jake Morrison sent his urgent message to Earth Command. The response was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Admiral Rachel Stone arrived with the largest human fleet ever assembled, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation around the destroyed Zephyrian system. Jake stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching as ship after ship materialized from hyperspace. The fleet was massive beyond imagination. 247 warships of various sizes and classes, each one designed for one purpose only: war. The alien survivors watching from their hidden positions in the asteroid field had never seen anything like it. The Zephyrian ships were elegant and beautiful, built for exploration and peaceful contact with other species. The human ships looked like nothing but weapons that happened to fly through space. Admiral Stone's flagship, the UES Retribution, was the largest ship any of the aliens had ever seen. It was dark gray and covered with armor plating and weapon systems. Just looking at it made clear that humans took warfare very seriously. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Stone's voice came through the communication system. "Report to the Retribution. For briefing in 1 hour. Bring your senior staff." Jake gathered Commander Alex Kane, Dr. Elena Woods, and Colonel Linda Hayes. They took a shuttle over to the massive flagship, where they were met by Admiral Stone herself. Admiral Stone was a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. She had fought in the colonial wars near Jupiter and had earned her reputation as the best tactical commander in the human fleet. When Earth needed someone to lead a military operation, they always called Rachel Stone. "Captain Morrison." "Admiral," Stone said as they entered the main briefing room. "Your initial report was quite detailed, but I need to know everything you've learned about these harvesters." The briefing room was filled with officers from dozens of different ships. Jake recognized some of the most famous names in the human military. These were people who had spent their entire careers preparing for war, and now they finally had an enemy worthy of their skills. "Admiral," Jake began, "we've spent the last 2 weeks gathering intelligence from the Zephyrian survivors and analyzing the wreckage from their destroyed worlds. The harvesters operate with overwhelming numbers and superior individual ship technology, but they have significant weaknesses." Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "What kind of weaknesses, Captain?" "They've never faced serious military resistance. Every species they've encountered has been peaceful, relying on diplomacy or purely defensive technologies. Their tactics are based on overwhelming force, not strategic thinking." Dr. Woods activated a holographic display showing the harvester, ship designs that they had reconstructed from debris. "Their ships are built for resource extraction and intimidation. They're large and powerful, but they're not designed for ship-to-ship combat against an enemy that knows how to fight." Admiral Stone studied the display carefully. "What about their numbers?" "Intelligence from the survivors suggests they have 7 major fleets operating in this region of space," Alex Kane reported. "Each fleet has between 200 and 400 ships. We're looking at potentially over 2,000 enemy vessels." The officers in the briefing room murmured among themselves. 2,000 enemy ships against less than 250 human vessels. The odds were terrible, but nobody looked worried. These were humans who had evolved from a species that regularly hunted animals much larger and stronger than themselves. "Where is the fleet that destroyed this system?" Admiral Stone asked. Jake pointed to a star chart on the wall. "They're currently attacking the Rigel system, approximately 15 light-years from here. 3 inhabited planets with over 40 billion people. Based on their previous patterns, they'll finish consuming those worlds within 5 days. "How long to reach Rigel at maximum speed?" 4 days, Admiral." Admiral Stone stood up and looked around the room at her officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 days to plan and execute the most important military operation in human history. We're going to save 40 billion lives and teach these harvesters why nobody threatens our neighbors." Captain Pete Johnson of the destroyer UES Devastator raised his hand. "Admiral, what about their technological advantages? The survivors say their weapons and shields are more advanced than ours." Admiral Stone smiled, and it was the kind of smile that had made her enemies surrender without fighting. "Captain Johnson, superior technology means nothing if you don't know how to use it properly. These harvesters have been picking on peaceful civilizations for so long that they've forgotten what real warfare looks like." Colonel Hayes was studying tactical diagrams on her tablet. "Admiral, what's our approach going to be?" "We're going to use the one advantage we have that they can't match," Admiral Stone replied. "We're going to fight like humans." The next 3 days were spent in intensive preparation. Every ship in the fleet was checked and rechecked. Weapons were calibrated, shields were tested, and battle plans were refined down to the smallest detail. The human Marines prepared for the most dangerous part of the operation. Colonel Hayes had developed a plan that no galactic civilization had ever attempted: boarding enemy ships during active combat. "Listen up, Marines," Colonel Hayes addressed her soldiers in the main hangar bay. "These harvester ships weren't designed to repel boarders because they've never faced an enemy crazy enough to try it. We're going to teach them why humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Lieutenant Ben Torres, leader of Lima Company, checked his assault rifle for the 100th time. "Colonel, what do we know about fighting these aliens hand to?" "Hand?" "Intelligence suggests they're tall, thin beings who evolved as part of a hive mind. They're efficient at consuming resources, but they've never experienced individual combat. They think as a group, but we fight as individuals who can adapt instantly to changing situations." Meanwhile, the ship captains were studying attack patterns that had been developed from thousands of years of human warfare. These tactics had been used by everyone from ancient Greek warriors to modern space fighters, but they had never been used against aliens before. Captain Morrison worked with his navigation officer, Danny Cooper, to plan flight paths that would maximize their speed and maneuverability. "Danny, I want approach vectors that will let us hit them from 6 different directions simultaneously." "That's going to require split-second timing, Captain. Then we better get the timing right. 40 billion people are counting on us." Dr. Woods spent her time analyzing the harvester technology, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. She discovered that their ships relied heavily on centralized command systems, which meant that disrupting their communications could cause massive confusion. On the 4th day, Admiral Stone called all ship commanders to a final briefing. "Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people in front of humans. Remember, these creatures have murdered billions of peaceful beings. They understand only strength and violence. Today, we speak their language." The fleet moved out in perfect formation, heading toward the Rigel system at maximum speed. Every human on every ship knew that they were about to make history. They were either going to save 40 billion lives and establish humanity as the galaxy's protector, or they were going to die trying. As the stars streaked past the viewports of 247 human warships, Admiral Rachel Stone gave the order that would echo throughout galactic history. "All ships prepare for combat. Today we go hunting." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Rigel system and immediately saw the horror that was taking place. 3 beautiful planets that had been home to billions of peaceful beings were being systematically destroyed by the Harvester fleet. Admiral Rachel Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the enemy ships through the main viewing screen. The Harvesters were enormous, each one easily 10 times the size of the largest human warship. They moved slowly and deliberately around the planets, using massive energy beams to strip away everything of value. "Admiral," reported Captain Sarah Mills from the sensor station, "I count 312 enemy vessels. They're arranged in a standard consumption pattern around all 3 planets." Admiral Stone nodded grimly. The Harvesters were so confident in their superiority that they hadn't even bothered to post guards or scouts. They simply assumed that no one would dare to challenge them. "Communications. Open a channel to all ships," Admiral Stone ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." Admiral Stone's voice was cold and hard as steel. "All ships. This is Admiral Stone. These creatures have shown no mercy to billions of innocent beings. They have murdered entire civilizations without hesitation or regret. Today, we show them what happens when they threaten humanity's neighbors. No quarter given, no mercy shown. Hunt them all." The human fleet began to move, splitting into 6 different attack groups that approached the Harvester formation from multiple directions. This was a tactic that had never been used in galactic warfare before, and the Harvesters had no idea how to respond to it. Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of the attack groups from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. His ships moved like a pack of wolves, fast and coordinated, striking at the edges of the Harvester formation before disappearing back into the darkness of space. "Danny, bring us around for another attack run," Jake ordered his navigation officer. "Lisa, jam their communication frequencies. Let's see how well they coordinate when they can't talk to each other." The UES Vengeance dove between 2 massive Harvester ships, its weapons firing continuously. The enemy ships tried to turn their heavy weapons to track the much smaller human vessel, but Jake's ship was already gone, replaced by 3 more human destroyers that appeared from a different direction. Meanwhile, Colonel Linda Hayes was leading the most dangerous part of the entire operation. Her marine assault ships were flying directly toward the largest harvester vessels, preparing to board them during active combat. "All Marine units, this is Colonel Hayes," she broadcast to her soldiers. "Remember your training. These ships weren't designed to repel boarders because they've never faced an enemy willing to try. Today, we teach them why humans evolved from pack hunters." Lieutenant Ben Torres piloted his assault ship toward a massive harvester command vessel. The enemy ship was firing its weapons at human destroyers and didn't notice the small assault. "Craft approaching its docking bay. Lima Company, we're going in," Torres announced to his Marines. "Remember, these aliens have never experienced close combat. They think as a hive mind, but we fight as individuals." The assault ship crashed through the harvester's docking bay shields and landed hard on the alien deck. Before the enemy could react, 30 human Marines poured out of the ship and began their assault. The inside of the harvester ship was unlike anything the Marines had ever seen. The corridors were tall and narrow, designed for beings much larger than humans. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, and the air was filled with an odd humming sound. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Amy Clark as her squad encountered their first group of harvesters. The aliens were tall and skeletal, with long arms and pale skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. They carried energy weapons that looked more like tools than military equipment. The harvesters tried to use their weapons, but they had never fought against an enemy that moved and thought like humans. The Marines spread out, using cover and coordinated fire to overwhelm the confused aliens. "They don't know how to fight," Torres reported over the radio. "They're trying to use their weapons like they're still harvesting resources, not fighting a war." Back in space, Admiral Stone was coordinating the overall battle from her flagship. The human fleet was performing perfectly, using speed and tactics to overcome the harvesters' advantages in size and technology. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "enemy fleet is trying to reform their battle lines, but our jamming is preventing effective coordination." "Excellent. Captain Rodriguez, take your squadron and hit their command ships. I want their leadership eliminated." Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded a group of human heavy cruisers. Her ships were smaller than the harvester command vessels, but they were designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat. "Copy that, Admiral. Beginning attack run now." The human cruisers moved in perfect formation, their heavy plasma cannons firing synchronized volleys at the harvester command ships. The enemy vessels had powerful shields, but they weren't designed to handle the concentrated firepower of ships built for war. Aboard the UES Vengeance, Captain Morrison was leading another attack group against a cluster of harvester resource ships. These vessels were even larger than the command ships, but they were designed for collecting materials from planets, not for fighting other spacecraft. "Target their main power systems," Morrison ordered his weapons officer. "If we can disable their power, they can't use their harvesting beams on the planets." The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships darted between the massive harvester vessels like deadly fish swimming among sleeping whales. The harvesters had never encountered an enemy that fought with such coordination and tactical skill. Colonel Hayes and her Marines had captured 5 enemy ships by boarding them and fighting their way to the command centers. The harvesters inside these ships had surrendered quickly once they realized they were facing an enemy they couldn't understand or predict. "Admiral Stone," Hayes reported from inside a captured harvester ship, "we've secured their main database. The intelligence here shows locations of other harvester fleets and their planned targets." "Excellent work, Colonel. How many enemy ships are still active?" Hayes checked her tactical display. 14 ships remaining, Admiral. The rest have been destroyed or captured." Admiral Stone looked at the battle display on her screen. Of the 312 harvester ships that had been destroying the Rigel system, only 14 were still fighting. The human fleet had lost 23 ships and over 3,000 personnel, but they had achieved something the galaxy thought impossible. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," she broadcast to the fleet. "Cease fire on any harvester vessel that surrenders." We want prisoners for intelligence gathering. Within an hour, the remaining harvester ships had either been destroyed or had surrendered. The Battle of Rigel was over, and humanity had won its first major victory against an alien enemy. Admiral Stone stood on her bridge, looking at the 3 planets that were now safe from destruction. 40 billion lives had been saved, and the galaxy's most feared predators had been defeated by a species they had never heard of. Communications. Send a message to Earth Command, Admiral Stone ordered. Tell them the mission was successful. Also tell them we're going to need more ships and Marines. We have 6 more harvester fleets to hunt down. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun with a single battle, and Admiral Rachel Stone intended to finish what the harvesters had started. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Rigel, and the galaxy was a completely different place. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Sanctuary 1, humanity's newest space station built in orbit around the rebuilt Zephyrian homeworld. The planet below sparkled with new cities and settlements, all protected by a permanent human naval presence. The war against the harvesters had been swift and decisive. Admiral Rachel Stone had led the human fleet from system to system, hunting down every single harvester ship they could find. The aliens who had terrorized the galaxy for decades were now either dead or imprisoned on remote worlds where they could never harm anyone again. Jake watched as human patrol ships moved through the system alongside vessels from dozens of different alien species. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just 6 months ago, but now it was normal. Humanity had become the protector of over 40 different civilizations, and the responsibility was enormous. Captain Morrison, Council Leader Vex, approached, wearing the new robes of the Human Defense Coalition. The Zephyrian leader looked healthier than he had in months, and his large eyes held hope instead of fear. The Galactic Council has finished reviewing the reports from our latest operation in the Vega system. Jake turned from the window to face his alien friend. The relationship between humans and the coalition species had grown strong over the past months. What did they decide, Vex? Complete success, as expected. Admiral Stone's task force eliminated 287 harvester vessels without losing a single human ship. The Marine boarding operations captured their entire command structure intact. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The Vega operation had been humanity's most ambitious campaign yet, involving coordinated attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The results proved that human military doctrine was superior to anything the galaxy had seen before. What about the intelligence we gathered from their commanders? Jake asked. According to the captured harvester leaders, only 2 small fleets remain in this entire sector of space. Both fleets are currently fleeing toward the galactic rim, hoping to escape human pursuit. Jake smiled grimly. They can run, but they can't hide. Our long-range scouts will find them eventually. The past 6 months had cost humanity fewer than 8,000 casualties total, while saving billions of alien lives. The mathematics of warfare had never been so favorable, and every species in the sector knew it. Captain, there is something else the Council wanted to discuss with you. Vex continued. They have made an official decision about the future of galactic defense. What kind of decision? They want Earth to assume permanent responsibility for military protection of this entire sector. They are asking humanity to serve as the galaxy's official guardians. Jake considered this carefully. 6 months ago, humans had been alone in the universe, exploring empty space and wondering if intelligent life existed anywhere else. Now they were being asked to become the military leaders of a galactic community containing trillions of beings. What did Admiral Stone tell them? She said that humanity would be honored to accept the responsibility, but only if all member species contribute according to their abilities. The Zephyrians will provide diplomatic expertise and cultural knowledge. The Corvani will serve as intelligence gatherers, using their telepathic abilities. The Malari will contribute their advanced manufacturing technologies. Through the observation window, Jake could see construction crews working on new defensive platforms around the planet. Human engineering teams worked alongside alien specialists, combining the best technologies and ideas from dozens of different worlds. How are the other species adapting to human military leadership? Jake asked. Better than anyone expected. The Centauri Collective has already begun training their young people in human tactical doctrine. The Andromedan Trade Union has converted half of their merchant fleet into auxiliary support vessels for our Navy. Jake was impressed but not surprised. The alien species had learned quickly that human methods of warfare were incredibly effective. More importantly, they had learned that humans could be trusted to use their military power responsibly. "Captain, there is one more matter," Vex said, his voice becoming more serious. "We have been monitoring long-range communications from distant sectors, beyond our current area of operations." "What kind of communications?" "Reports of something called the Shadow Empire. Unlike the Harvesters, this appears to be a true military civilization that expands through conquest rather than consumption." Jake turned back to the window, looking out at the peaceful scene of human and alien ships working together. The Shadow Empire sounded like a different kind of challenge entirely. "Are you asking for humanity's help again, Vex?" "The Council is asking if humanity would be willing to investigate these reports. The Shadow Empire appears to understand warfare. In ways the Harvesters never did. They might pose a more conventional military threat." Jake thought about this new challenge. The Harvesters had been powerful but predictable, relying on overwhelming force and superior technology. A true military civilization would be different. They would understand strategy and tactics in ways that might actually challenge human forces. "Tell the Council that humanity will investigate these Shadow Empire reports," Jake decided. "But also, tell them something important about my species." "What should I tell them, Captain?" "Tell them that humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by avoiding dangerous predators. We became dominant by actively seeking out and hunting the most dangerous things we could find." As if responding to his words, Admiral Stone's voice echoed through the station's communication system. "All human naval personnel, report to your stations immediately. We have received priority intelligence about hostile military activity in the Andromeda sector. Prepare for extended operations." Jake watched as human ships throughout the system began moving into formation. The crews were eager and ready, trained by months of successful combat operations against the Harvesters. They had proven themselves against one galactic threat, and they were confident they could handle another. "Vex, send a message to all Coalition worlds," Jake ordered. "Tell them that humanity accepts permanent responsibility for sector defense. Tell them that any species that threatens the peace will face the full military might of Earth's forces." Zephyrian leader bowed formally. "It will be done, Captain. The galaxy is fortunate to have humanity as its protector." Jake returned to watching the ships outside. Human destroyers and cruisers moved alongside alien vessels, all working together, toward the common goal of protecting innocent life. The fleet was already larger than anything that had existed before the Harvester War, and it was growing stronger every day. The message was clear to anyone watching from across the galaxy. Earth's children had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians. They had established a new order among the civilizations, one based on protecting the weak and hunting down those who threatened the innocent. Any species that chose to test humanity's resolve would learn the same lesson the Harvesters had learned. They would discover why evolution had forged the human race in the harsh crucible of a world that tried to kill them every single day. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy was safer because of it.